I started thinking, like, how can I sew in a practical way so that I'm getting a lot done and I'm not 100% consumed with sewing all the time. Good morning! I wanted to talk about some cool things I've been working on recently. I sew, and I've been sewing all my life, and I recently made a goal for myself that I was going to sew everything for myself and my family. And so I've come up with this system so that I can get a lot of it done in a short amount of time, or a relatively short amount of time, that I like to call batch sewing. From start to finish, making one garment can take, for a busy mom like me, it can take, a month or two. I started thinking, like, how can I sew in a practical way so that I'm getting a lot done and I'm not 100% consumed with sewing all the time. And so I came up with this method of batch sewing. I use an assembly line method to get a lot of sewing done. If you're just learning to sew, I don't know that batch sewing is for you, but if you feel like you've gotten to a point in your sewing where you know a lot and you can sew, you can follow a pattern from beginning to end, and you really want to take it to the next level and sew real everyday stuff for your family, this is a really good route, and for yourself. What I do when I am batch sewing, and this is the most important step and the longest step, is develop your patterns. That means make them fit you, or make them fit whomever you are sewing for. Make them go in, make a quick mock-up with some inexpensive muslin. Muslin is cotton that's just undyed and usually pretty inexpensive. I'll often buy it by the bolt, just so I have a whole bunch on hand so I can make mock-ups. I make patterns, which all of my patterns are paper right now. I'm working on developing patterns that you can buy at my website, at my store. If you go and buy off the rack, most of those clothes are not going to fit you, even if they're in your size, because everyone's body is different. And so that's kind of one of my reasons. I wrote a blog post called 8 Reasons You Should Sew Your Own Clothes, and that is one of them, is that your clothes will fit better when you make them yourself. Buying off the rack is not a perfect system because they go based on averages, but the cool thing about sewing your own clothes is you can develop your patterns to fit you or your children, or your child with special needs who maybe you have a hard time finding clothes that fit properly, and it might be frustrating to find clothes for people whose bodies are shaped differently. And it's really important to take time on this step. So even if it takes you a month or 2 months of redrawing your lines and making a mock-up, and then redrawing your lines again and making a mock-up, just keep going through that cycle until you get your pattern to a point where you love the way it fits you. I'm not trying to knock on anybody out there in the internet world, but I have seen a lot of people be like, a lot of other blogs talking about sewing their own clothes, and they don't do this step, and they get to the end and their clothes are ill-fitting still. So in those cases, I feel like that's a lot of hard work to have gotten to the end and still have an ill-fitting garment, and so especially when it comes to batch sewing, when you're sewing between 3 to 6 outfits for yourself, you don't want to make 6 outfits and come to the end and then they all don't fit you very well, and then you don't want to even wear them. Here, I'll be right back. Okay, so this is a dress that I have been developing, and it fits me. It doesn't fit anybody else. I actually did make this pattern. This is one of my own patterns that hopefully I'll have available in digital form for people at some point, but yes, this did not get this way overnight. I started with a draft, and then I edited the draft, and then I edited the draft, and then I had a baby. My body changed, and I had to completely redo that. But every single line fits me, and it's comfortable, and it does not look home sewn. Okay, so I'm back in my store-bought clothes. So anyway, if you are working with pre-made patterns, which you most likely are, you can do this process too, and I'm hoping to get a video up soon about how to develop your patterns. Take time on this step is all I'm trying to say. Don't make 6 outfits that don't fit. That's a waste of your life, and you'll be so discouraged at the end. So don't skip step 1. Make sure your pattern fits, and then after that, it's just a matter of step 2, you gather up all your fabric and get it all washed and dried, and don't let it sit in the dryer or else you'll be ironing for 10 hours. I'm not kidding about that. Like, only wash and dry your fabric when you can sit there and watch it like a hawk. I've got 10 yards of this organic cotton Birdseye, and it's a little wrinkled now, but it's not terrible. I'm talking about when you leave it in the dryer, it will be terrible, and it will not be, you won't be able to work with it. You won't be able to lay anything on it and cut it because it'll be too much of a mess. But we stretched it out a little bit after it came in the dryer to pull those wrinkles out, and then we folded it up, and it was so long I needed his help because it goes on forever. Always wash and dry your fabric before you sew with it, unless it's wool or silk. I mean, yeah, unless it's wool or silk, yeah, don't put those in the wash. Those should be dry cleaned, not necessarily before you sew with them, but look up, I mean, obviously treat your fabric the way it needs to be treated to keep it, or else that would be sad. Anyway, wash and dry your clothes, wash and dry your fabric. Be right there to take it out. And when you take it out, you can stretch it out. So yeah, once you have all of your fabric washed, dried, iron it. So you iron all your fabric. So let's say you're making 3 pieces, you get those 3 different kinds of fabric and any lining that you're going to use, and you iron all of it in one sitting. What we're trying to avoid with this whole process is going and getting out your iron and iron your fabric, then cut it out, then sew it, and then it's time for the next piece, and then you're going to get your iron again, and then you're cutting again, and then you'd waste so much time running around gathering up your tools for the project. But if you can sit down and do all your ironing in one batch, and then do all of your pinning and cutting in one batch, and then do all of your main seams that your pattern tells you to start with, and then do all of your secondary seams, I guess you could call them, the second step, then you're almost to the end at that point. You've kind of pieced all your garments together at the same time. So I also, I tend to use neutral thread. So don't be changing out your thread all the time to match your outfit unless it's, I will change my thread out for the finishing touches, because if it's top stitching or something and I want something specific, I will take the time to do that. But if you're just doing hidden seams, you can't even really see the thread. This isn't something that I made, but there's no reason. So I sew with a lot of grays and a lot of beiges. So all your primary seams at once. So I stack up all my clothes that I'm about to sew, and I run it through basically in one motion. I just keep bringing more. So all the main seams, I usually start with darts if there are darts. Obviously you have to start with darts, that's before you do anything else. Then main seams, secondary seams, final construction is usually done by then if it's like modern clothing. If you're doing something like a corset, that'll take a while, but I don't know if I would do batch sewing for something complicated like a wedding dress or corsetry or anything like that. I would probably just have that be an isolated project. But I'm talking about everyday clothes. Right now I've got all these fabrics came. I've got, my husband needs t-shirts, so I've got this organic cotton and organic rib from Organic Cotton Plus to make t-shirts for him. And that will be, you know, quick and functional. I'm talking about practical sewing. And then my daughter sews, and my son too, he's just 4, so she's really excited. She wanted to sew her own dress, so she picked this fabric out, and she's going to make a really simple tank top style dress. And then this is for a secret project that I'm doing, so you'll just have to wait and see about that. So yeah, I've also gotten the queue. This is a bathing suit that I made for myself 3 years ago, and this sad thing is seen better days because I've worn it to death. I swim a lot, and it's all stretched out, and the elastic is all wonky. When you're sewing real clothes for your real life, you can go this method because usually the seams that you're sewing are few, and then you do your finishing touches at the end. And then that red dress that I had showed you, I'm going to be making some more of that one, hopefully with some sleeves. So I am waiting on a fabric, and I will open it up with you. I need to start doing that anyway. So yeah. So if you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I will try to answer them. Thank you for watching. And I wanted to say a good starting place for batch sewing is I would pick 3 things. Recently, I'll show you a picture too, but I was so sad. I really wanted to show you this little bonnet I made. It's so cute, but I cannot find it anywhere. And that's real life right there. We actually use these things that I make, and so it got lost because that happens sometimes. But anyway, I made this cute little romper, and I'll show some pictures too, and I've got pictures of the bonnet with it. This romper and this little dress romper thing for my baby. And I made a little bonnet that's reversible, so it's this fabric on one side and this on the other. And I got all this fabric at a store here in Knoxville called Gina's Bernina, which I love Bernina. And I will talk about my sewing machine another day. I made a vest for my son, which I can show you a picture of that. And I made a dress for my daughter, my oldest daughter. So I'll let you see all of that. Yeah, so I've got a lot coming up. I've got t-shirts and dresses and this surprise project that I can't tell you about yet. And we're going to the beach this summer, so I really need a bathing suit because I can't go out like this. It's falling apart. The seams are good, but the fabric and the bum is deteriorating. If you've ever had a bathing suit for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you're sewing. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. And yeah, it's fun to sew for your family, and you can do it. You can be your own factory and make it all happen.